You know that feeling when someone completely erases you from their life, and somehow you're expected to just disappear like a bad Snapchat story? Yeah, that was me last month. My parents told me the wedding was cancelled. Not postponed, not moved, cancelled. Just like that, my own family decided I was so irrelevant they didn't even bother to invite me or tell me the truth. If you asked me a year ago, I'd have said my relationship with my parents was complicated but still intact. We had our usual disagreements, the kind every family has. But nothing prepared me for the brutal cold shoulder they suddenly served me, like I was some distant cousin they barely tolerated. And the worst part? The wedding was for my brother. Let me back up a bit. My name is Claire, and for years I had been that perfect little sister. The one who got straight A's, stayed out of trouble, and somehow managed to be the golden child, despite my brother always stealing the spotlight. My parents had this odd way of balancing their love, over the top with my brother, cold and dismissive with me. I played the part. I smiled. I nodded. I pretended not to notice the glaring difference. Then came the announcement: my brother was getting married. At first, I thought maybe this was a chance to finally be part of the family celebrations, maybe even start repairing whatever invisible barrier was between us. So naturally, I asked about the wedding. And that's when the lies began. "Claire, the wedding is cancelled," my mother said over the phone, voice tight like she was hiding a secret. "We're really sorry. It was too complicated to organize with everything going on." Cancelled? I was skeptical. My brother wasn't the type to call off a wedding without good reason. So, I pressed for details, but all I got were vague excuses and forced apologies. No invitations, no save the dates, no mention of rescheduling. The more I pushed, the more distant my parents became. Calls went unanswered, texts ignored. It was like I had suddenly become invisible. Then came the kicker. A little birdie, someone who didn't know I was cut out, mentioned a live stream happening that day. Apparently, the wedding was very much on, and friends and family were tuning in from all over the world. What kind of cruel joke was this? So there I was, sitting alone in my penthouse apartment, yes, the one my parents always scoffed at because I chose my own path, with my laptop open, ready to watch a wedding I wasn't supposed to see. I won't lie. At first, I felt anger. A bitter kind of fury at being lied to, erased, and humiliated. Then came the sting of betrayal, the realization that my own family would rather pretend I didn't exist than face me at a party. And finally, beneath it all, a twisted satisfaction that I was watching this secret event from my throne above the city, in the home I built with my own hands. The live stream started, and I felt a strange mix of emotions. The venue was beautiful, exactly the kind of place my parents would have loved to brag about. My brother looked happy, even radiant, as he waited at the altar. My mother wore that perfect smile, the one that hides 1,000 secrets. My father, well, he looked like he was trying very hard not to meet my gaze, if he even knew I was watching. I could see my brother's fiancée walking down the aisle, surrounded by bridesmaids and flower girls. I recognized a few familiar faces. But what I didn't see was any hint of me. No mention, no acknowledgement, no sign that the sister who once mattered was even alive. As the ceremony unfolded, I noticed a pattern. The camera kept panning away from a certain side of the audience, the one where I would have sat. A deliberate effort to exclude. I could almost hear the whispers, the sideways glances, the silent judgment. But here's the thing about being underestimated: it makes you dangerous. Watching that wedding was like watching a play where I was the villain, the sister who didn't deserve to be there, the shadow lurking in the wings. But I wasn't about to be a ghost forever. I had plans. Plans that would make sure everyone saw me, loud and clear. I closed my laptop, taking a deep breath. My parents thought canceling me was the end. That I would crumble, disappear, and forget the family I was born into. They were wrong. That night, I sat in my penthouse, looking out over the city lights. The same city my brother would soon know as the backdrop to his new life, a life I would crash in ways they never imagined. I decided then and there that this wedding wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't screaming from the sidelines. It's sitting back, smiling quietly, and making sure the spotlight finds you anyway. The morning after I watched the live stream, the silence in my penthouse felt heavier than ever. It wasn't just the absence of my family's calls, they were already experts at pretending I didn't exist, but the weight of knowing they thought they could erase me so easily. I poured myself a strong coffee, sat by the window, and let the city wake up below me. I was calm on the outside, but inside, a storm was brewing. I wasn't going to lie, it hurt. Not just the wedding, but all the little things that led up to this moment, the dismissive comments, the empty smiles, the way my achievements were always overshadowed by my brother's greater successes. For years, I had swallowed those slights, convinced that one day they'd see me. But that day never came. Instead, they decided to cut me out, like I was some inconvenient afterthought. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that hurt can be a powerful motivator. After the initial shock wore off, I started digging. If my parents thought lying about the wedding would keep me away, they badly underestimated how stubborn I can be. I called every mutual friend I could think of. I checked social media, scouring every post, every comment, every tagged photo. Nothing was too small to escape my notice. And there it was, a single comment under a picture of the wedding venue, best night ever at the Grand Lilium Hall. Congrats, Mike and Lisa. Grand Lilium Hall. That name rang a bell. It was one of the most exclusive venues in the city, a place only a handful of people could afford to book. My parents always acted like that kind of luxury was beyond our reach, too flashy, too showy. But there it was, plastered all over the live stream and social media. I knew that venue well. Not personally, but through work contacts I'd made in my career. And I had a plan. If my family wanted to play the cancel the wedding game, I'd play it too, only on my terms. I started making calls that very day, but not the kind my parents would expect. I wasn't reaching out to friends or family, I was calling the Grand Lilium Hall. And I wasn't calling as Claire, the forgotten daughter. I was calling as Claire, a successful entrepreneur who knew how to get things done. Within hours, I had an appointment to meet with the owner and management team of Grand Lilium. I knew this was the perfect move for two reasons. First, it would let me see the venue up close, the very place where my family had thrown that secret wedding without me. And second, it would give me leverage I planned to use carefully. The day of the meeting, I dressed sharp, not to impress anyone, but to remind myself why I deserved to be there. My confidence was a weapon. As I walked through the grand entrance, I couldn't help but notice the subtle glances from the staff, as if they could sense I didn't belong in their usual circle. Perfect. I met the owner, a woman named Evelyn, who was sharp, smart, and a bit intimidating. She asked why I was interested in the venue, and I didn't hesitate. I want to book Grand Lilium for an upcoming event, I said. Something big. Something they'll never forget. She raised an eyebrow. You know this place is booked months in advance. What kind of event are you planning? A wedding, I said, letting the word hang in the air like a challenge. Evelyn smiled. Funny you say that. We just had a wedding here last week, very exclusive, very private. I heard it was quite the affair. I nodded. I heard too. The thing is, I'm not interested in just any wedding. I want to make a statement. And that's when it hit me, I had the perfect plan to make my parents pay attention. I wasn't going to be the forgotten sister anymore. I was going to be the one who owned the very place where their secret celebration happened. The one who controlled the venue that held the memories they wanted to keep from me. Over the next few days, I worked fast and smart. I negotiated a deal with Evelyn that gave me not just a booking, but priority access for future events. I even arranged for exclusive rights to the venue's main hall for the entire next month. The people at Grand Lilium were impressed, or at least, they pretended to be. I didn't care. All I cared about was the power shift. Meanwhile, my parents continued their silence. No calls. No texts. I could almost hear them whispering behind closed doors, wondering where I was, if I was even alive. Little did they know, I was right under their noses, plotting the perfect comeback. One night, as I sat reviewing contracts and event plans, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from my brother. Short, cold, and completely devoid of the warmth we once shared. Hope you're doing well. That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just a meaningless message to remind me I was still out of the picture. I didn't respond. Instead, I smiled to myself, knowing that my real response was yet to come. Because owning the venue meant I could control the narrative. I could decide who got in, who was allowed to celebrate, and who got left standing outside looking in. And trust me, they were about to find out just how far I was willing to go. As I stared out at the city skyline, I realized this was more than just a family feud. It was about respect. About reclaiming what was mine. About turning the tables in a game where the rules were always stacked against me. I was done being the invisible sister. From now on, they would have to see me. And that made me smile, colder than the night air outside. The day finally arrived. I wasn't just a shadow lurking behind the scenes anymore, I was front and center. The owner of the Grand Lilium Hall, the place where my family had thrown their secret wedding, now had my name on the lease, my signature on the contracts, and my vision for the future burning brighter than ever. But this wasn't just about business. This was personal. A few days before my official event, I sent out my invitations. Not to my parents, oh no, they had to earn their way back in. Instead, I invited the very same social circle that always basked in my brother's reflected glory. The friends who applauded at their parties but ignored me at family dinners. The acquaintances who never bothered to ask how I was doing. The invitations were simple but clear, a night to remember at Grand Lilium. Dressed to impress. The buzz started quickly. Rumors spread that Claire, the forgotten sister, was throwing a gala at the most exclusive venue in town. People who never returned my texts suddenly wanted to RSVP, yes. The irony wasn't lost on me. On the night of the event, I arrived early, dressed in a sleek black gown that caught the light just right, not flashy, just undeniable. The staff greeted me with respect this time. The doors opened, and one by one, my guests arrived, whispering about the grand event hosted by the woman who used to be invisible. And then, of course, there was the moment I was waiting for, my parents showing up, expecting what exactly, I wasn't sure. A cold shoulder? An apology? I didn't care. I had something far better planned. They walked in, faces pale, eyes scanning the room. My mother's forced smile faltered when she saw the "reserved for Claire" signs. My father's jaw tightened. And my brother? Well, he looked like a man who just realized the throne he'd been sitting on had shifted. The music softened, and I took the stage. The room fell silent. "I'm glad you all could make it," I began, my voice calm but carrying the weight of every ignored birthday, every unreturned call, every moment I was erased. You might have heard the story about my cancelled family wedding. The one I wasn't invited to because, apparently, I didn't exist. There were murmurs. I let them hang. But tonight, I said, we celebrate something else. The power of persistence, of standing up when you're pushed down, and of turning the tables on those who think they can erase you. I paused, letting the words sink in. You see, this venue, I gestured around the hall, was where the wedding happened, the one I wasn't invited to. And now, it's mine. Every event, every celebration here will bear my mark. Because I'm done being invisible. I watched their faces, the shock, the embarrassment, the silent apology that never came. They realized this wasn't just a party. It was a statement. And then, just to drive the point home, I revealed a little surprise, a video montage, compiled from clips and photos I had gathered from the secret wedding livestream and social media. The screen lit up, showing moments of the ceremony, laughter, tears, the vows. There was my brother, promising a lifetime of love. There was my mother, looking radiant and proud. And there, right in the corner of every shot, a conspicuous empty seat, the one meant for me, left deliberately unfilled. The room went quiet. My parents' eyes darted around, avoiding mine. I wasn't supposed to see any of this, I said softly, but I did. And now, so will everyone else. The night went on, and my event was a massive success. Guests toasted to new beginnings, to Claire, the sister who refused to be erased. Afterwards, my parents approached me, their faces finally softening. Not with apologies, but with respect. It was clear I had changed the game. That night, as I closed the doors to the Grand Lilium Hall, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not from revenge itself, but from reclaiming my place. Because in the end, the family you want is the one you make for yourself. And sometimes, you have to lie low, watch from afar, and strike when they least expect it.